So Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, it's got the strong woman trope. Now there's nothing wrong with the trope if done correctly, which they did with Arya, for example. Arya happened to be a tomboy, and she enjoyed fighting with swords. She did that as a hobby. But with the case of the main character from the House of Dragon, like she wants to be a warrior, but it's never explained why. Like why does she want to be a knight? Like, she wants to be a knight because she wants to be a knight, I guess. Like, is she some sort of sociopath? You do realize that in medieval time, the battlefield is not a nice place. I mean, we actually saw at the jousting that people die in very brutal fashion. Like, why would you want to do that? Men have to do that because they're drafted or they need to earn prestige so that they get the admiration from this chicka. But women don't have to, especially an aristocrat lady that's oozing with privilege. Like, she doesn't have to be a warrior. Why would she want to? Is she sadistic? Like, I never understood this, right? So, if I were to make the character and make it more likable, I would have said that she wants to ascend the Iron Throne because she doesn't like how her father is doing the ruling. She doesn't like how people are taking advantage of her father, and she thinks she can do it better. Like, she thinks she can root out corruption, or maybe she thinks that she can bring stability to the kingdom. So she wants to gain the Iron Throne in order to improve the life of her citizens, of her constituents, right? And in order to do that, she has to learn combat so that she can gain the respect of the other. Wouldn't that be a more interesting character besides like, I am a strong, empowered, American-inspired woman. I want to be on the battlefield, right? Like, I'm just saying. So that was my first criticism of the first episode. The other one is that birth is torture, right? Like, this is exactly what they want to go with, according to the authors. It's like, birth is torture. And by the way, this is actually true of medieval society. I mean, a lot of women died at childbirth. So yes, I do agree with this. But the delivery could have been done a little bit better. I mean, the foreshadowing for this was so thick, you guys. It was so freaking thick. Every single time the queen was on screen, she would be complaining about childbirth. Like, literally every single scene that she is in. And then when the scene actually happens, number one, it wasn't shocking for me because I was expecting it. It was like, oh, well, she keeps talking about childbirth, like, surely something bad will happen. And then I wasn't attached to the character whatsoever. I mean, this is episode 1. There's no build-up of the character. There's nothing sympathetic about the character. I don't know anything about her, right? It's just like an extra dying, you know? Like, it's kind of like a red shirt from Star Trek passing away. I mean, okay, yeah, it's not cool. It's gruesome. But it could have been a little bit more emotionally impactful had you developed her character just a little bit. And had you used some time where she's on the screen where she can do something wholesome or something better than just whine about pregnancy, you know? I'm just saying. I mean, I was even shocked that the king likes her, basically, because you only find that out after she dies at the council meeting. Apparently, yes, the king cared about her, but before that, you don't even get it. And then, like, the problem with the setting, right? Because they're saying, oh, well, the king didn't care about her life, and, you know, she had nothing to say about it, and blah, blah, blah. The medical situation was that she was experiencing complications during childbirth. Now, they do not have the technology to pull the child out safely, which means that she was going to die anyway. Like, there was nothing they could have done in order to save her life. Because as the child dies in her, necrosis sets in, and the dead flesh is going to cause an infection, which makes her go into sepsis, eventually into shock, and she passes away anyway, right? So there wasn't really anything to be done to save her at that point, but for some reason, like the showrunners, they constantly want to push this. It's like, oh, it's a misogynistic society because the king decided on her life. Like, no, she was going to die anyway. Okay, like, medically speaking, there was nothing that could have been done to help her. I guess the dilemma could have been whether or not her death could have been easier, right? So I guess maybe they could have given her more milk of the poppy so that both her and the child die peacefully rather than have her being given a C-sec while she's alive. Right? But then you don't save the child. I guess that would have been the conversation. And again, like, why would it be misogynistic? The king didn't know whether or not the baby is a boy or a girl. Like, it could have been a girl, and I think, like, you would have made the same decision. Like, if the mother dies anyway, and there's a chance you can save the baby, why wouldn't you take it? Right? I mean, even if I was a woman, and I knew I was going to die anyway, I would probably choose to at least try and save my baby. I don't know. I'm just saying. I guess, like, not everyone would make this decision, but I think I would. And then, of course, the theme of this birth was torture, right? All right, and then they talk about how this is a sexist and misogynistic society because they don't ask her for consent. And I'm thinking, like, all right, well, imagine if the roles are reversed, right? And you make a movie about a son who is being drafted into war, and he has no say in it. Like, someone else decided that he has to go to war for his lord. And his lord loses the claim, right? He loses the war. And then the son is taken into slavery, and he is worked to death in a mine. Now, if the mine belongs to an aristocrat widow, or maybe the country is ruled by a queen, like England used to be, or Russia, can we make the assumption that, oh, it's a very misandric society that's against men? No, absolutely not. We're talking about the medieval society where things were bad for both men and women. Like, I do agree that women could die at childbirth, but then men could have died during the war, which was quite often at the time. Like, they didn't enjoy the great peace like we do. So I find this to be very interesting coming from the authors. Like they have this very interesting ideology that, oh, well, it's sexismus. And by the way, the delivery is also pretty bad because while she was giving birth and she was having the C-sec performed on her, we also got pictures of the joust, and we saw people having their brains splashed in, right? Like, people using shields in order to bash other people's heads and stuff. So, it's not like, oh, if you're a man in this society, it's a really nice, comfy position, and it's only the women that have to suffer. No, again, it's inspired from the medieval time period, when things were bad for everyone. But if you want to hyper-focus on one gender and you ignore the other, then yeah, I guess you can make the dumb conclusion that it was very misogynistic. Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.